Hi everyone, welcome to Certified in Cybersecurity. I hope you can all hear my voice and see what's on the screen. You can put it in the chat if you'd like. We have a lot of people here today, so I think we are just about ready to get started. This is going to be a really large group, and I'm hoping that over the next 4 weeks, you'll be ready to take your exam. So if you're not excited about cybersecurity yet, I hope you will be just as excited as I am. It's a very interesting time, especially with artificial intelligence and lots of changes. I know many of us are here today for different reasons, but I'll give you a little background about myself. I am what is called a global trainer for ISC2, and I am a partner for my company, which is called Pinnacle. Now, normally for instructor-led classes, you are expected to pay for it, but during the month of June, I usually set aside some time for anyone who wants to get what I consider free training. So some people consider this course to be pretty easy. Some have taken it a couple of times and have not passed, primarily because, just reading materials by yourself may not be as easy as it seems to be. And what I hope to do is provide you with some guidance over the next 4 weeks so you can take your exam. If you've taken the exam previously and you have failed it, then you would have to pay to actually do the exam. So for those of you who are doing it for the first time, let's make sure that you have as many tools that you have as possible to make sure that you are successful going through this. So again, my name is Christopher Nelson. I love cybersecurity. The Certified in Cybersecurity course is one of the top certifications that ISC has begun to offer from an entry-level standpoint. So the first set of slides that I'm going to share with you are really about understanding what the course is. So the term entry-level really means that you're going into cybersecurity or transitioning into cybersecurity. Now, you could be in IT and moving over into cybersecurity. That's considered transitioning. You could be in HR or in the legal department and you want to go over into cybersecurity, then you'd be moving into governance. You could be a high school graduate that wants to get into cybersecurity. That's another way. Or you just want to find out more about why is it that so many people seem to say that these jobs are in high demand. So for whatever reason that you have here, it's just important that you just stick with us and see how well you can get through it. Again, I'm sharing an email, which is info@pinnaclelearnings.com. I need you to make sure that you have written it down, because if you have not registered with ISC2, you need to register. It was in the email to go in and make sure that you have registered to get more of the materials and then eventually to do the exam. So if you haven't done that yet, email me after and I will send you the link to it so you can make sure that you are registered and can take advantage of the free materials and the free exam itself. So understanding the course from a cyber standpoint is really looking at, what is a cybersecurity certification? We're going to look at some of the course structure and the content. What is the exam format? Let me just change this here. put it in one more time. Okay, it's there in the chat, and we're just adding more people. We currently stand at 123 people. So this is probably one of the largest classes that we have done, and really happy to have you here. Awesome. So please write down that email address. You can reach out to me after the class, ask me any questions, and request the link to make sure that you are registered to get the free materials and the link for, how do you get to do the exam. So when we're looking at cybersecurity and this certification, we need to understand that cyber in itself has a specific function. From ISC2, ISC2 is a global organization. They have in excess of 600,000 members. So what it allows you to do once you pass this exam is to become part of this global body. What do we mean by global? It means that it provides more opportunities, that especially for remote work. Like as a cyber analyst, you can have a certification that says ISC2, and it's recognized in Australia, India, America, England, Japan, right? It's also understanding that, it's ISC2 is the gold standard. So if you Google ISC2 and the term CISSP, it's going to tell you that it's the gold standard for cybersecurity. Now, this is not the top certification, but this starts you on that path to get there. So it's very important that you understand the group that you'll be part of, and that in each country, each city, there are chapters where cyber professionals meet. It's a great way to network. It's a great way to find out more about where jobs and opportunities are. You make friends, and you might see a particular job opportunity coming up. So it's going to be able to allow you to say, hey, I see that there's a particular job at your company. Could you connect me with the HR or the recruiting manager? So in terms of the importance of the certification, the certification allows you to demonstrate that you have a commitment to cybersecurity. And it's going to allow you to show that you have now validated your knowledge. The test and passing it and getting a really nice, certificate shows that and you get a digital badge, which you can use on LinkedIn. I see people have already, shared their LinkedIn information. It shows that you are qualified for the role. And many employers are asking for certifications, and we're even seeing that even though this is an entry level, that the certificate itself is showing up at many different places, and some organizations are saying, do you have a certified in cybersecurity certification, which can be used for this? So the benefits, again, is it's an enhanced job prospect, increasing your earning potential. You get the professional recognition, and it's part of what is called continuous learning. So the core modules are really going to be focused on security concepts, risk management, and incident response. And we are going to be doing this for 4 weeks, same time, every Wednesday. You will have access to the recording afterwards. So you use a recording along with the information from ISC2, and that's going to help you to get your exam passed. We have questions about Security Plus. It's not a matter of doing Security Plus first and There are many different certifications. You have Cisco, you have Google, you have Microsoft. ISC2 stands by itself. It's a brand that you should do your own research on. Security Plus, yes, it's recognized also. CompTIA is a very good brand. Sometimes a combination of both works well. So it's not going to hurt to actually have both of them. So we're going to be looking at things like your network security, your cloud security. We're going to be looking at application security and security operations. Now, for those of you who are doing it for the first time, don't be afraid to engage or ask questions, in the chat. Will there be any voucher issued? Yes, if you go to the site that was in your email, which is at ISC2, you will register for the exam, but you have to go to that site and make sure that you're registered for that. Okay. So the outcomes are going to be that, there's a fundamental understanding of cybersecurity. We're going to be able to look at the real world applications of some of the things that are being shared, and we're going to look at how we prepare for it. Yes, the candidate form on ISC2 is going to prepare you with all of the things that you need to learn. Flashcards, some of the tests, right? The prep tests are going to be there, and how to actually do the exam using Pearson VUE. So the exam itself and the format is going to be 100 questions, and it's over a 2-hour period. It's going to be focused on some of what we call the key domains, assessing the knowledge that you have in particular areas. So we currently stand at 133 people who are here, and happy to have everyone. Just to make you know that when you're doing the exam, it's going to be scenario-based questions. There are going to be multiple choice questions on different topics, and some of them can be true or false questions. But to do all of these questions, you have to have the knowledge. So you must achieve a minimum score to pass the exam. There are 100 multiple choice questions. You get 2 hours or 120 minutes to do it. They are moving to a new format in October. I strongly recommend that if you stick to the path over the next 4 weeks, that you try to do the exam shortly after. So create a study plan, just make sure you have the availability to do it, set your goals, and break down the 5 domains into manageable topics. Use your calendar when you're studying. Study the official ISC2 CC training course. So that's on the candidate portal, which you should all have gone to register. Again, if you have not registered on it, if you cannot find it in the link that was sent to you before, email me afterwards and I will send you another link, because you need to make sure that you do that. Okay? You'll get things like your flashcards. You can use Quizlet, and we have what is called a teach back method, and you're going to have practice questions. So make sure you track your progress and revisit any of your weak areas. It doesn't make much sense for you to keep going over and over what you already know. Focus on the weak areas and take at least one timed mock exam. And again, the exam itself is done at Pearson VUE. Okay. So let's get into it. Okay, so you should see a slide that says certified in cybersecurity chapter 1. Okay, and I see Isaac there, so I know I can get a thumbs up from Isaac, being that he see what's on the screen. Correct, Isaac? And Chrisan, right? Jaskaran, Christina, Vincent. I wish I could call out all 123 names, but just want to make sure we still have people who are coming in. Okay, so certified in cybersecurity. We're going to look at some of the key introductory concepts, such as things as risk, how we manage risk. We will look at several of the key terms that are important for us to understand. We have security principles, starting with the concepts of information assurance. We're going to look at things like safeguards and countermeasures prescribed for an information system to protect what is called the CIA, not CIA like the FBI. The CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's the foundation of cybersecurity. Okay? How do we protect confidentiality, integrity, and availability? When you put money in the bank, you don't want everybody to know how much you have. So we need to make sure that's confidential. If you put $1,000 in the bank, you want to make sure that when you go back for that 1,000, that somebody hasn't changed it to $100. So we protect the integrity. And then when you go to the bank, you want to make sure your money is available. So that's availability. So that's the CIA triad. So what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting systems. It is really about networks, it's about digital attacks, and these attacks are usually aimed at accessing, changing, or destroying sensitive information, extorting money from users, or interrupting normal business processes. So we need to understand that from a cybersecurity standpoint, hackers are trying to get into our systems and our networks right now. Some people do it for fun, some do it for profit. Some could be novices who are just looking for a shortcut to fame, or they could be a group of organized criminals who work silently on the wire. These people don't make noise, but when their job is done, a business may be damaged beyond repair. So cyber protects the organization's ability to function. It enables the safe operation of applications implemented on the organization's IT systems. It's going to protect the data, the information that the organization uses and collects. And it safeguards the technology assets in use at the organization. So we are looking at it from the standpoint of protecting the organization from botnets, things like distributed denial of service. You may have heard the term DDoS, meaning that systems are under attack. We are looking at hacking, malware, farming, phishing, ransomware, spam. These are all terms that you'll become familiar with. But let's go back to how cybersecurity is used to protect an organization. And cybersecurity normally comes in several layers. And these layers are called defense in depth. And we need to have defense in depth. So let's look at your organization to be like a castle. Some of you who are fans of Lord of the Rings will know that this is where it comes from. So every castle is going to have some form of wall surrounding it. And that wall is where you would find the equivalent of an organization's policies, procedures, and creating awareness with the employees, like don't click on that kind of email, don't have a USB device. You know, policies and procedures are how we handle things. Don't leave your laptop open on your desk. Don't leave your laptop in your car. Don't share your passwords. That's your protective wall on the outside. It might have cameras, it might have a fence, it might have lights on it. But all of these are key areas. We have to have the physical component of it, which is called physical security, which is cameras, fences. Sometimes people call it turnstiles. I'll give you a question, an example of a question that you could get in the exam. And it's like this. Which of the following is not physical security? A camera, a turnstile, a fence, or a door? And most people would say, well, a camera. And some people might say a fence, but it really is a door. And the reason why it's a door is because it didn't say door lock. So cybersecurity and the exam that you're going to take is still going to require you to think through some of these things. So we know policies, we know physical security, and we have what is called a perimeter. Then the perimeter is looking outward. It is seeing what is coming towards the actual organization, what is trying to attack, what is conducting what is called reconnaissance, right? So we have to make sure that we are aware of these things when we're looking at setting up defense in depth for our cyber security. Our internal network is behind our policies and our physical controls. It is inside the walls, but we still can have those areas under attack. So it's important that we know what is an internal network and what are some of the threats that actually exist. We have to be able to understand the concepts of cybersecurity as it relates to the host. And the host might be the data center. It's the servers. What is holding the actual data itself? But we have to have different layers, defense in depth, to protect all of these areas. And that's why in cybersecurity, there are so many roles that actually exist. So for those people who are just joining, it's important that, you know, as I was mentioning before, that you register for getting your materials with ISC2. There is no cost associated with it, but you need to register with ISC2 with the link that was provided in the email to you. If you don't have it, I've also put my email in the chat so I can send it to you afterwards to make sure that you can get your access to your materials and do the exam free of cost if you have not done it before. The application layer is another area that is used for defense. And the most important area is what we call our crown jewels. Now, our crown jewels is what is most valuable to the operations of the business. Now, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the crown jewels for that is the formula that makes it finger-licking good. For a bank, it could be the money. For Krispy Kreme donuts, it could be that formula. For Starbucks, it might be the coffee. For Amazon, it might be the algorithm that tells you or tells Amazon that you are going to need a red toothbrush 2 weeks from now. Every organization is different in terms of what it believes its crown jewels are. And that is where you want to focus protecting your business. So as we look at all of these different areas to build our defense in depth, we need to understand that you can have a breach from anywhere, normally starting with your exterior, going through the different levels. It is normally the area that is least protected that you have the breach occurring from. So going back to the triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability is really working together, because confidentiality can negatively impact or affect availability, and maintaining integrity can also enhance confidentiality. Confidentiality is a characteristic of data or information when it is not made available or disclosed to unauthorized persons or processes. So NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology from the United States. It is the body that has existed for almost 100 years that sets standards for whether or not it's trains or buildings or airplanes. It's how that industry should function. And it has a specific division that is focused on cybersecurity. So NIST 800-66 states that the characteristic of data or information when it is not made available or disclosed to unauthorized persons or processes falls under confidentiality. For integrity, the property of information whereby it is recorded, used, and maintained in a way that ensures its completeness, accuracy, internal consistency, and usefulness for a stated purpose. And when we speak about availability, we're ensuring timely and reliable access to and use of information by authorized users. So I am a banker, or I bank with a particular organization, and I want to make sure I can have my money when I need it, that it's available. But the same thing can apply to any organization that is offering a service, that the data must be available. So let's look at it from the standpoint of a hospital or the health services. If I become ill and my medical records are not available, and I have an allergy to a particular type of medicine, then I could die because I was administered the wrong type of medication. So my records must also be available. But if the integrity of my actual data has been changed, and it has changed my age or my race, then I could have another problem, because it has now affected the way that I'm being administered to. I could be given the wrong medication. My data may not be available to me at that time. So all of these work together to support cybersecurity. Now, authentication, which is another area that you will be tested on, has to do with when you are logging into Facebook, Instagram, your bank account, anything that you are using a password, it means that your password is something that you know. It is how you prove that you are really who you say you are. So 3 of the common factors that exist for this are something you know, something you have. We have tokens, memory cards, and smart cards for something you have. So the combination of it is something you know, which is your password, and then something you have, which is a token or a memory card. Now we're getting into the concept of multi-factor or two-factor authentication, because if somebody gets my password, they can then get into several areas. But it is less likely that they're going to have my password and have my memory card or my token or my smart card at the same time. So that is two-factor authentication. And we can go as far as to have what is called multi-factor authentication, which is when you are now using biometrics, your face, your eyes, the retina of your eyes, your handprint, your fingerprint. Those are biometrics. And the combination of these things help to authenticate you. So methods of authentication, as we're saying, you have single factor, which is when you're using just one of 3 available factors to carry it out. And then multi-factor is when you are using more than one, using 2 or more. Privacy is a right of a human individual to control the distribution of information about themselves. Personally identifiable information is any data about an individual that can be shared or it can be used to identify them. PHI is protected health information, and it has different levels of privacy. So again, that's an area that we have to take into serious consideration when we are discussing people's privacy. PII and PHI. So you need to know the difference between the two. So let me stop for a second and just look at the chat. So we discussed that a voucher, an exam voucher, will be available if you register using the link and registering with ISC2. I think we covered the passing grade. Is it online? It is a face-to-face exam, usually at a person view location. How is a fence different from a door in your question? Because the fence normally would stretch to block an area, just the term of it. A door can be used as a doorway. A fence is normally a structure of a certain height. Hopefully it's not a little small white fence, but it's just a term that you would have to add lock to it to know that it's secure. Otherwise, a door could be left open. Yeah, Kevin said you can't open a fence. Good one, Kevin. Again, we get a lot of questions about the voucher. And, as mentioned before, please, just send like Isaiah, I see you have a note there. Just email me, maybe send me a screenshot of what it says. And and then we can discuss it afterwards. Okay? And recordings, I will send a link to the recordings afterwards. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So how can the three parts of the CIA triad be used to protect this information? And what, if any, are the obligations to protect the information? We need to know that you can take one piece of information that is not considered private. My name is not private, but combining it with my date of birth can make it private. That then constitutes PII. And then you can add on an address, and all of these things make it confidential and cannot be shared. The same thing with health. So as a security professional, it's going to be your obligation to regulate the access and protect that data. You will only allow people who are authorized to access that data. So we're moving on now into the concept of risk management. And risk can be, if you're walking down steps, there's always a risk that you're going to fall. You will never eliminate risk. There's always what you call residual risk. And we have things that are called security frameworks. So let's just kind of jump into it. A security framework, and remember we touched on NIST. NIST builds out a set of concepts. Just like you build a house, and a house is going to, if you can just see it with wood first, that's your framework. It's built into your foundation on which you're putting everything on. So when you're building out a cybersecurity program, you're not just throwing everything in there to secure it. The framework advises you on things to do step by step to secure the organization. So it might say, for example, it would be effective to have passwords for people who are using your devices. Okay, you put your passwords in. Now all of your employees have a password. Then the next stage it might say is, well, you should have two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So then you move from just passwords, and then you might add on a badge card or a biometric reader. So the frameworks are ways that guide organizations to secure step by step, because there's no way that you're going to be able to buy everything all at once to protect your organization. It's going to show you what I call the best, or taking a risk-based approach to security. So on one side, we have NIST, which is primarily from the United States. But then we also have ISO. And ISO is global. ISO is another framework. But many people prefer NIST because NIST is free. NIST is free. I'm not saying you might not hire a consultant to implement NIST because they may know more than you, but NIST in itself is a free framework. ISO, you have to pay for it, and you have to pay for the consultant who is going to implement it and also sign off on it. That makes you ISO certified. So companies use frameworks as a roadmap or blueprint. It does not mean that they are automatically compliant, and it does not mean that the organization is secure. So why do we need frameworks? It is used for what is called best practices. It helps to ensure companies have information organized for compliance. We have companies who need that to help them assess their own security, right? We know that there are only two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that will be. Nobody gets away from it. It's just a matter of the severity of the hack and how you are prepared for it. So some of the frameworks are COBIT, ISO 27001, AICPA, NIST, NIST SP 800, and the CIS Critical Security Controls. Your focus should really be on NIST and ISO, maybe COBIT, and we will go into CIS, which is Critical Security Controls. We're going to touch on PCI DSS. Every time you go to buy something and you use your debit or credit card and you put it at a terminal or you use it online, PCI is payment terminals and the framework that is used to protect them. So COBIT is called Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology, COBIT. So the question that you might get might be, which of the following is not a framework? NIST, ISO, COBIT, and maybe HIPAA. Because HIPAA is a regulation for health, but it's not a framework. COBIT was developed by ISACA. It started out primarily focused on reducing technical risk in organizations, but has evolved recently with COBIT 5 to include alignment with IT businesses and strategies. And it has to do with compliance for what is called Sarbanes-Oxley. And that was out of an issue or a risk that came up because of some improprieties. Now, ISO has two categories, 2701 and 2702. It has been called the grandfather of all standards. It's developed to meet the needs of international or global organizations. It uses a risk-based approach and is technology neutral and has a 6-part planning process. The first part is to define the security policy. The second is to define the scope of the information security management system. It is to conduct a risk assessment and to manage identified risk and select control objectives and implement them. It is really looking at cybersecurity from the full scope of how to protect an organization. It is primarily used when an organization needs it to do business with another organization. And because it's like, if I'm a bank and I am going to approve loans from a car dealership, that car dealership, to speed up the application process, may want to connect their network to my network so that we can transact business really fast. How do I know that their network is secure? I can either send my employees or I can say, show me your ISO certification. And they would then be able to present something that's signed off by an ISO certified company that has gone through and checked all of them and said, this organization has all of the following things in place. Now, NIST is different. NIST, for me, is just beautiful. It's just like, for me, it's like artwork. When you talk about cybersecurity, look at it this way. It has these 5 buckets. So it says first, Identify. Identify what's happening. Identify where your risk is. Identify where all of your laptops are, right? So the framework is going to say, show me a list that has all of your laptops. Who has the laptop? What's the model number for the laptop? What's the serial number for the laptop? And what's the version? The version is important because if it's an old laptop and it's not supported anymore, you know, when we get those little things on our phones that says update occurring tonight, those are patches. And those patches are put on our phones and our computers mainly to block what they call vulnerabilities. They've found out that a hacker could use a particular path to get into your device. So they put a patch on it to block it. So if you don't know how old or what model or what version of Windows or whatever is on your device, then you can't protect it because it's not being supported. So we need to know where your assets are. We need to look at what your environment is. We need to do what is called a risk management strategy. Okay? So we also need to protect it. How do we protect? We look at access controls. Not everybody can have access to your company's network. Not everybody can have access to your bank account. So you want to protect by having controls. You want to have awareness and training, meaning teaching your employees, teaching your staff, teaching, if you're in a school, your students, what they shouldn't click on, right? When we look at detect is when we're looking at anomalies. Now, over 300,000 viruses are created every day. 300,000. People just sit there all day long with nothing to do but try and hack. It's pretty amazing. They churn out these viruses and malware, and we have to detect them. So we have to have continuous monitoring, and we have to be able to select those that are critical, those that are high, those that are medium, and those that are low. And we really want to deal with those that are critical very fast. And then we want to be able to respond in an appropriate manner, right? So we have to plan how we're going to respond. And we want to be able to communicate and analyze the kind of attack or virus. And then we want to be able to mitigate. Mitigate means to reduce the impact, right? We want to put something in place to control the damage that could occur. That's what mitigate means. And then we have to look at how do we recover if the damage occurred? How fast do we? So if you had money in a bank and the bank shut down today, you know, how long could you do without your money before you started to panic to see whether or not you'd get it back? So the bank has to have a thing which is recovery planning, and we will touch on that in the future. So NIST is very powerful, and it's recognized as a security best practice, again, created by the US government, and it's originally designed for nations' financial, energy, healthcare to protect it, but now everybody uses it. So how do we implement a security framework? Well, first thing we have to do is look at what's your best practice. So according to the Center for Internet Security, there are 5 main controls which are fundamental. Remember I spoke to you about knowing where your laptops are? You have to have an inventory to know where your assets are. If you don't know where it is, then it could be attacked. So an inventory is important of authorized and unauthorized devices, but an inventory of the software. Because many times we could have bought software for some product years ago and just forgot that it even existed, but it's running some little thing in some place, but it's no longer thought about. No, this is on another note, which is called Internet of Things. We keep focusing on computers like laptops and servers, but a lot of the hacks are now coming out of cameras which are on the outside of buildings, or solar panels on the outside of buildings, or when you go in a building and you see those smart walls, smart screens, photocopiers, anything that's plugged into your network can be hacked. And some of that software is really old and it's no longer supported, and the hackers know that. So we need to know how to have secure configurations. And what do we mean by secure configurations? It means that we are managing it and that it's developed securely using a particular process. We have to have continuous vulnerability, meaning we're continuously looking at what could affect that software or hardware. Continuous vulnerability assessment or testing, and control the use of administrative privileges. In other words, if you are the receptionist on your third day of work, you should not have access to the server room. And if you are the VP for finance, you should not have access to HR files. That's separate. Just because you're a VP does not mean you have access to everything. So we have to control the privileges that people have within that organization. So the inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices means that we have to have an inventory, we have to track, we have to correct, we have to build it, we have to make sure that we maintain this asset inventory. So every time a new device is purchased, we're going to take that device and we're going to put it on the list. But we are also going to make sure that every time somebody leaves, that we take it off the list. Because otherwise we're going to have a false sense of security. And gone are the days that I will tell you that 10 years ago, every time somebody's laptop had reached a certain age, people would say, okay, I need a new one. And then they keep the other one at home. People would have 6 laptops at home. Now you have to make sure you turn it back in so they can destroy it, take out whatever data is in there, it's destroyed securely. We also have to look again, here's another good slide about NIST for those of you that want to really understand in depth about NIST and where it started from, the history. It's really very deep in IT, healthcare, forensic science, disaster resilience, cyber physical systems, and advanced communications. You don't have to go super deep, just understand what NIST is versus ISO versus COBIT. So what is risk? Risk is an undesirable situation or circumstance that has both a likelihood of occurring and a potentially negative consequence. Risk management means now you're going to identify and assess, try to reduce the risk, or you can accept the risk, or you can control the risk using different ways. So risk, for example, is if I am driving my car in a place that has snow, I may want to reduce my risk by putting on winter tires so I don't slip, right? Or I can say, well, I'm just not going to worry about that. So I'm just going to accept the risk. Some people decide to transfer the risk, meaning that they insure the vehicle so that if something happens, the vehicle itself will be repaired by the insurance company. It may not repair you physically, but it will repair the vehicle. So why do you want risk management? And that's to reduce the chances of something harmful happening to the business. This involves a focus on the risk to meeting customer requirements and preventing product non-conformance escapes. The absence of a risk management program can result in known, unknown, and unknowable or unforeseen circumstances. So we have to look at different types of risk. We could have a financial risk. You could have a strategic risk. You could have a compliance risk. So let us say you have a hospital and you're supposed to be looking after your patients in a particular way. That's compliance. If you're not following it. If you're a bank, there are certain regulations. If you're not following that, that's a compliance risk. You can have operational, including physical and environmental, meaning that you're in a flood-prone area or in the woods or near, we have all of these fires happening nowadays. What are human factors? Human factors are employees that can damage your equipment either intentionally or by accident. We have political risk, we have environmental health risk, and we have ethical, legal, and image risk. So the term tolerance means some people have a high risk tolerance. Some people put human beings in rocket ships and run the risk of them blowing up. And that's a high tolerance. Other people play it safe and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to bake donuts, right? What is your tolerance? And your tolerance has to be managed by executive management and or the board of directors. So the question that you could get is, who determines the risk tolerance? And that's going to be your leadership. And the risk tolerance can be different depending on the organization. So regions that are near volcanoes are going to have certain kind of safeguards against lava flows. Some that are prone to severe weather are going to have plans for, power supplies. Like there's some data centers or organizations that actually sit on the middle of the line between two cities so that if one power plant in a city went down, it would have another source of power from the other city. And that way, it's just continuously in business. It depends on your tolerance. That's the term. So another term we need to know is intrusion. Intrusion attempts to compromise the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, or to bypass security mechanisms. And intrusions can happen by malware, attackers getting unauthorized access. It can happen through authorized users of systems who misuse their privileges. Sometimes people who are in IT who have access to data can use that access to investigate emails from other people, especially if they think that that person is trying to hurt them or reporting them. They can go into areas and see things that they're not supposed to. And that in turn then gets them in trouble. So although many intrusions are malicious in nature, many others are not. A person could just mistype the address on a computer and accidentally attempt to connect to a different system without authorization. So not everything is malicious. So that's why we have to have an intrusion detection process. And that's monitoring events occurring in a computer. One of the terms you want to remember is intrusion detection system, IDS. And the other one is intrusion prevention system, IPS. So the IDS automates the intrusion detection. It can tell that something is happening on the network, something different, there is an anomaly, and it is saying beep, 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 there's something going on here. Now, the IPS, which is a protection prevention system, it has all the capabilities, but it can also attempt to stop, shut down what is happening. So IDS, IPS, or it could have one name, which is an IDPS. The IPS stops the attack itself. So for an example, it can terminate the network connection or user session that is being used for the attack. It can block access to the target or possibly other likely targets from the offending user account or IP address. It can block all access to the targeted host, service, application, or other resource. Don't worry, we're going to go back over some of these terms that may seem different to you. Key thing here, remember the term IPS, Intrusion Protection System. The IPS changes the security environment. The IPS could change the configuration of other security controls, such as reconfiguring a network. It can change the attacker's content. It can remove or replace malicious portions of an attack to make it benign or just cannot affect your environment. So we have different types of detections. It can be based on the signature. Most viruses have signatures, meaning it has a particular way that it functions and they can detect where it's coming from. But it's ineffective at detecting unknown threats. Signature-based cannot track and understand the state of complex communications. So if we had an email with a subject, free pictures, and an attachment file of freepics.exe, which are characteristics of a known form of malware, that's how you're going to know if something is signature-based. Organizations have devices, security intrusion devices. And those devices are connected to Microsoft and other leaders that are collecting all of this information about malware and viruses. And they know the signatures of those devices, of those malwares. So it's going to map it to the one that you have and say, hey, this is red. This is critical. Let's quarantine it. Let's delete it. Let's eliminate it. So that's it in its most basic function. The intrusion detection and prevention systems, again, take the time to read about it. It's going to help you to understand about the policies that work, because you have to have a policy in place that's going to say we will accept this and we will stop that from coming into our environment. The more secure that you become in your business is the slower your business is. Now that might sound strange. The more secure you become is the less efficient and slower that your business operates. So cyber is not looked at as something that speeds up the business. It slows it down. If you look at your front door, do you have one lock or two locks? Because cyber is going to try and put as many locks on your front door. So somebody who's coming to deliver your pizza, you're going to have to go click, 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 click. And that's what cyber does. It slows it down. So there has to be a balance between the security and the efficiency of the business. So the policies that are created are going to be used to help to detect and prevent and monitor, but it's all going to have to be balanced off with the objectives of the organization. So where do we place the intrusion detection systems? You can put it outside of the firewall or just inside of the firewall. Now, the firewall is designed to let certain people in. It's designed to block others from accessing your network. So a combination of both will detect your attacks, and it will actually help. It has different places that it can be put. So we have, like, for example, you see the internet, and you can put a sensor between the internet and the firewall. Then you can put another one after the firewall. Then you can put another one between the firewall and the mail servers, because it can get past one level and you may want to have it at another place to see whether or not it can detect anything that's happening on your network. So you'll see as you go through your files, you will see a couple of pictures, devices, images of processes that you might want to make sure that you are copying, make sure that you are following. Most IDPS systems also offer features that compensate for common evasion techniques. And evasion is really modifying the format or timing of malicious activity, so its appearance is changing. So I don't want to get too much in the weeds about, an attacker could encode characters and certain things, but the intrusion detection and protection system is an integral part of protecting an organization. So we can have network-based IDPS, which is going to do things like packet sniffing. It's going to test different areas. We can have host-based, which are similar in principle, and purpose is really about the network, and it is linked to a particular host. It has different features, but the main area that you would have to know is what are the different types of IDPS systems. Network-based, host-based. So all of this is related back to your cyber controls. We want to defend against cyber threats. We want to make sure that we, as we discussed, have risk mitigation. We want to make sure that we are compliant for regulations like for health or banking. And we want to make sure we have controls in place that are going to reduce the impact of a loss. We're going to have three main types of controls. Physical controls: fences, door locks, turnstiles, badge readers, cameras. These are physical kinds of controls. Technical controls are going to be like firewalls, intrusion detection and protection systems, right? Anything that is on the network are called technical or logical controls. Your administrative controls are your policies and procedures, meaning do not leave laptops in the car, do not share passwords, do not use a USB, on the system. These are policies that are written and they are implemented and followed by your technical and your physical controls. So your physical controls might say anybody who leaves an organization, their badge must be turned off before they even leave the premises. That means if they don't do that, the person could come back the same day, maybe angry or not. But the fact is, you need to have administrative controls. But the three main controls, administrative, technical stroke logical, and physical controls. Encryption and data protection. Encryption is crucial for safeguarding sensitive information. So when you're sending information to the bank, it might be encrypted. When the bank is sending you documents to sign, anything that requires a great deal of confidentiality and to preserve the integrity will use encryption to wrap that message or encapsulate it so that nobody can see what's in the message apart from the person that's sending it to you and you, the person who is receiving it. Even if it's intercepted, it remains unreadable. It is in what is called ciphertext. You're sending a message at first in plain text. You're reading what's on the screen there now as plain text. If I was to encrypt it, it would become ciphertext or unreadable. We need to make sure that we understand that all organizations have to have training and awareness programs. Training programs are essential for educating employees about potential cybersecurity risk. We have best practices and we have fostering a security culture. So most mature organizations have a cyber training and awareness manager or department just focused on that 24 hours a day, sharing that information with all of the employees, testing employees for phishing and other exercises, and even playing a greater role today. They're playing a greater role today because of AI. Because the messages are becoming more sophisticated. Before, when somebody was trying to do phishing and sending an email, in many cases, the English being used wasn't always the best. But using AI to create the email, they're pretty good. Not only that, you could use a video chat between a clerk who is being instructed by the VP for finance, who said, have you paid this particular customer as yet? Why haven't you paid them? I need you to pay them right now. And using AI and the image of that VP for finance to have that junior employee rush to getting it done. Okay? Again, we touched on policies. We need to have policies that we are going to use to protect the organization. We need to understand things like data protection policies, right? How are we going to safeguard the data of the organization? We need to have an incident response plan, which means we had a fire, a flood, something that has shut down the organization, and we cannot make our information available to our customers. So we have to have a plan before it occurs. So it's incident planning. And we also need to have access control policies, meaning who has access to what and at what times and when. We have ISO, and NIST that we touched on earlier, right? So again, that's an area that we need to make sure that you are familiar with. And you have other industry specific standards that have tailored guidance. You have healthcare standards. You have finance regulations that are specific for cybersecurity. And you have areas that are supported based on the laws and the regulations required for that industry and how cyber supports that compliance. Make a note to understand the concept of GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. That is primarily out of the United Kingdom. It is a question that comes up. The United Kingdom takes privacy very seriously. America and Canada, to some extent, do not. The only state that is almost on the level of the United Kingdom is California, and they have the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA. GDPR prevents you from taking data from people out of the UK to another country. It has very strict guidelines, but it's just important you understand that you have GDPR and you have the California Consumer Privacy Act, and both impose requirements on organizations to ensure data protection. So there are compliance requirements. We know there are cybersecurity laws. We know there are compliance standards, and we know that there are penalties for non-compliance. So as we wrap up week one, we looked at the importance of cybersecurity controls, physical, administrative, technical controls, combinations of controls. We looked at policies. So let me see. There's a lot of stuff here. So sorry, I was muted. I'm putting my email in the chat again. The question was really about, what was the question about controls as it relates to physical security? Which one is not a physical security control? A fence, a door, a turnstile, a camera? And the answer is a door, because a door doesn't have a lock. If it doesn't say door lock, it doesn't mean that you can actually lock it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so if anyone is not having access to ISC2, just email me. Register for the next session, part 2. I'll make sure you get an email today, or you just send me an email. If you didn't get one, I just sent you an email which says info. Has anybody been able to register for the course? I can't either. Okay, let me ask the question. Has anybody been able to register for the course? Can I get a thumbs up if you have with ISC2? Okay, because I think we have 50 people who have actually registered. So those of you who have not been able to register, please reach out to me. Let us find out why and what is the issue. When you say to register for each part of the course, there are 2 components to this course. ISC2 is the body that has all of the materials to support what I am teaching you. It has the flashcards, it has slides, it has the access to the final exam voucher. It has the materials. I'm providing you with materials to support the actual final exam. So I'm providing you with information that supports what you're going to be learning through ISC2. By passing the exam and becoming a part of ISC2, you will then become members of the chapter and everything else. Did it say you have to pay $50? No. Or after you've passed the exam, if you want to become a member of the chapter? Because you're not supposed to be paying anything until you have passed and you want to be a member of the chapter and attend meetings and become part of the global body. The certification does not expire. Every year, you continue to learn more, and they are called PDUs, and you can then move on to getting a higher qualification like the SSCP. Yes, you will get a copy of the recording to this event. Yes, so tonight's session, this is different. You've registered for this, but you have to register for ISC2 to get the free materials from ISC2 and to get the free exam voucher. If you have not taken the exam before, if you took it before and failed it, they're not going to allow you because you only get to do it once, right? There is nothing that can be shared, Bridget, in terms of walking you through. There's a link that's sent in the email, and you use the email, and then you log in to register with ISC2. If you can't do that, then I'll do a one-on-one with you, and I can share that with you, but I can't do it in here now. Okay. So as I'm saying, Carlos, just email me, and then I'll follow up on it to find out what's happening with you. There may be other reasons why. Okay. If you registered, like Kevin, you said, how do I know if I'm registered? I'm pretty sure I did. Are you saying that you registered on the ISC2 site? Because if you did, you would have received an email from ISC2 welcoming you and showing you how to log in and access all of the slides and the material. If you schedule the exam right now, no, you get a couple of weeks within which to do it, but I would not register to do the exam until you feel that you're ready. Okay? Whatever it tells you once you log in, the pre-assessment is there to guide you to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Okay? This is part of a global program, which is going to end very, very soon in terms of offering this free window for the certification. So, you know, I encourage you to do it as soon as possible. I mean, once you get through these 4 weeks, if you decide to stay, you know, then you can do the exam. You should be able to do the exam the week after. Okay? But I will send you a link to all of this. Afterwards, I have all of your names, right? Because we had over 500 people that registered for it. We had 145 that turned up today. So everyone that's here, I'll make sure if you can attend again next week, I'd love to see you here. We have more topics to cover. It's not that you can't do it on your own. It's just that this just helps to walk you through. Now, some of you might ask, why is it that the microphones are muted? There are hackers everywhere. There are hackers who have even tried to get into this class. Sometimes they use it to disrupt, especially when it's this number, and they'll actually draw things across the screen and try to disrupt the class with the audio. As we begin to fine tune who is actually here, then it's going to be a lot easier to know who is here and who to kind of weed out, and we can have more conversation. Okay? So I look forward to speaking with you again next week. You have my email, right? info@Pinnacle. Email me. I'll make sure to respond to you, provide you with information and more things. Okay? But thanks for joining today. Take care, everyone.